everybody doing? This is Kenneth with Southern Queen Farm. I was going to give you a quick just walk through today with some of the chores we're doing. We're all working right now. I'm doing water changes. The kids and Wynn are killing some chickens that we've got a bunch of roosters. I think we've got 12 or 15 total, so they're killing 3. Get that numbers down. One of them will go in the crock pot. He'll be for tomorrow night, and then the other 2 will go in the freezer. And I'm doing a 20% water change, treating for ick. Here I am in an aquaponics system today. We're doing a water change. We also treated the water. The fish had an ick, so I treated the water. So this tank, the tank here, is completely isolated from the food section. And I'll treat for about 3 or 4 days and then reintroduce the water cycle back up. But everything's cycled and starting to grow well. So give you a quick tour of this. Here I've got one thing of basil, but the rest of these are cuttings. Trying to get some rose bushes and some willow trees to take root. And back here in our hanging section, I've got a whole bunch of cuttings we're trying to work out. The stuff I ordered for my floating raft should be here by the end of next week, so we'll set up the floating rafts. The rest of the growing media I need to fill this should be coming in next week. And then we've got some seeds starting over here and a cilantro in that one. And then outside, in our outside bed, you can see through the glass there, that's going to be corn, and we're also going to raise some bamboo, which we're going to use. It's 40-foot Japanese timber bamboo. It starts really well in the aquaponics system. Transfer it to the ground, and it works really good for shade around the pool and around the pond. Here, I'll give you a shot of the fish. They're doing pretty good. I noticed a little bit of ick on them. So what I'm doing is I'm isolating the tanks, treating them for ick over the next probably 96 hours or so. Then I'll drain the water, about 90% of it, reintroduce them back. The ick medication is safe for plants, but just to be safe, we just keep it completely isolated from any food that we're growing. So that works out pretty good. The water's starting to really clear up nice. I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but we've been cycling now. We finally got the system cycled, so we're actually putting out a lot of nitrates, so it works out really well. The plants are starting to do a lot better now that they've got access to the nitrates. So we'll continue on with the process here once we reintroduce the fish. But since the fish are isolated, if you notice the bucket there, I've got just a makeshift filter in line there just to help catch any of the big particles that may fall through. I will add in a little bit of nutrition there over the next 96 hours just to keep the cycle going really well. If you notice right here, I've added a FX4 fluval filter that works really well, because what that does is that allows me to isolate the tanks completely and be able to keep them 100% cycling. So I don't have to worry about contaminating anything. I completely can set up 2 separate isolation systems without having to isolate the fish into a different tank. And that's working out really well for me anyway. And I also have an aquarium inside, a 55-gallon aquarium that I use as a medical tank. So if I have one individual fish that's injured, or maybe that fish is sick, I'll pull it out and treat inside so I don't have to isolate this tank. But since it is contagious to all the fish, it's just easier to go ahead and treat them all right here. So they're in the process of being treated right now, and I'm doing daily water changes, about 25% or so, until I get this taken care of. And I've been treating with salt, and it's really helped a lot. And that should be good, but I don't want the salt introduced back into our food crops, because over time salt will build up in the system and it will harm the plants. So that's my chore today, and I'll walk out here again and check in with Wynn and them, who are plucking chickens. And John and Lily are plucking chickens. Ian got a reprieve today. He's in a live Fortnite event, so Wynn let him have a couple hours off to go play some of that since it's a live event. And what we're doing here is, if you notice, they're plucking. We're not being real careful with them because we're going to take the skin off anyway. One of the 3 will go into a crock pot. He'll be dinner tomorrow night. We'll let him cook for 3 or 4 hours, nice and slow. Maybe put some vegetables in with him. I don't know whether we're going to do barbecue or whether we're going to do like a soup. We ain't decided yet. And then the other 2 we're just going to put in the freezer, and they'll go in the freezer until we're ready to do the next crock pot. They're not as old as the last chicken we cooked, who was tough as hell. Maybe these will be a little more tender, but we're going to not take any chances, and we're going to slow cook them in the crock pot. We're working the garden. Got lucky today. It's rained day before yesterday and today, so we hadn't had to water. I got 2 pineapple plants that I'm working on, and they're going to grow in the greenhouse year round. This guy here is looking pretty good. This one I'm not sure. We're going to see how that works out. Growing a couple pomegranate trees, which do really well here. I'm going to keep them in the pots until spring, and then until next spring. And then next spring, I think they'll be big enough and strong enough to add them to the orchard. If you look down here, I'm growing some olives. These are a hardy, cold weather resistant olive tree. I got 3 of those. Those are going to go into a little olive grove that we're trying to put together so we can make our own olive oil. We'll see how that works out. Just give you a quick tour of the garden here. We've got some garlic and some peas. As you move around, you'll see. Along the fence line, those are all tomatoes and cucumbers. There's our, on the very end down here, that's our potato bed. Come back here, we got carrots and we've got onions. And we planted everything really close together. And what we do is, as we thin, we eat the greens from them. And for a salad, it works out pretty good. And here we have a little old wagon that's broken, and notice one of the handles are missing and big holes in the bottom. So we use this as a herb bed. Works out really good, so far anyway. So come down here. Now these are strawberry plants that were planted about 40 years ago. Wynn's grandfather had a strawberry patch up on the hill, and it got neglected, and over the years, and it, you know, after he died, and it got taken over by kudzu. Well, as we cleared it, we found these strawberry plants. Somehow they made it. So what we're doing is we transplant them down here to these pots to see if they'll take hold and that we can keep them alive, and they look like they're doing well. And if they do and they produce, we're going to add them to our strawberry patch. Come right here. This is some of our strawberries. So, and also we have some corn growing here. Come here, we're growing some potatoes in bags. We're trying to do a couple different methods. We're still pretty new at this. So here we're growing them in bags, and here we're growing them in raised beds. So we're going to see which one has the best yield, or if it's comparable, what's the best way to do it. Here we're growing beets and some more thyme. And then we like to put lavender around. It's supposed to help with mosquitoes. So far so good, but still pretty early. And here our greens are doing really well. We're hoping to get about another month out of greens. And we're trying to scheme a little bit here. So we've got our greens across the front, and this is south facing for us. So we're hoping as our squash comes up the trellis, it'll block out the sun and buy us a few more weeks, maybe a month of the shade will help our greens last a little longer. We'll see how that works out, not sure. And then here, we're going to make our own pickles this year. So we've got some dill that's starting to come into flower, which we're going to use for pickling our when we make our own dill pickles. And then here we've got some mint in the back, which got to be careful, mint will take over the whole bed. So, but Wynn's plucking that for salads regularly. And these are just wildflowers that we got in a little pack, and we're seeing if we can get them to take root, and they did pretty well. We're trying to draw some bees in. And this is our romaine lettuce, which is doing really well. Same concept though. All these greens will eventually here, it'll get too hot here very quickly for them. So we'll see how we'll, use it as long as we can. This is a new concept we're working on. I saw this on a video. There's a guy online who has a YouTube channel. I forget the guy's name, but the name of the channel is Self-Sufficient Me. He's an Australian guy. He's just got wonderful stuff. But one thing I got off there was he does his vertical garden beds. Well, when we were getting our rabbit hutches, we come across these pine, untreated, just perfect pallets for this. So what we're doing is we're growing herbs on the side, and John's going to do this as an experiment, and he wants to take all these to seed, and what he's going to do is, over generations, we're going to try to see if they'll adapt to growing this way. They're doing well anyway, but we want to see how they do. Also, if you'll come here on the top, we've planted cucumbers. So the idea is the cucumbers come up. The cucumbers have got to be spaced quite a bit apart. We're going to bring one up and come down this way with it. And as this one comes out, it's going to go up and go down this way with it. And then vice versa, and they just keep coming, and we're going to rotate them. And these were planted a little later, staggering them out a little bit. Same thing here. We've got one planted here, but these were planted later, so they're staggered. We're not getting a million cucumbers at once. And we'll see how that works out. It may or may not work out, but it'll be interesting to see how it works. Another section of the garden here, up against the greenhouse, we planted asparagus. This is the first year we planted it. It's on the back row there. That's all we had this year. Didn't quite get enough, so what I'll do is on the front here I got some Swiss chard. So next fall I'll go ahead and plug in these gaps with more asparagus. Asparagus lives a long time, so the idea is to get some perennials in, something we don't have to constantly plant. So we won't harvest them this year. We didn't touch them this year. We won't touch them next year. Let them get some growth on them, and then maybe we can start harvesting some asparagus. And here we did more potato. They'll get the south sun from behind me, but then the building will start blocking it in the afternoon. So we want to see how these potatoes do here, not exposed to the direct sun. Here we also did sweet potatoes. They'll be in partial shade, so we don't know how well that's going to work, but it's something we want to try. Right now they're growing like a weed, so they're doing really well. So we'll see how that goes from there. As we move on here, so we got 2 beds of sweet potatoes, and some of these sweet potatoes I grew from store-bought sweet potatoes, so it's interesting to see how they do. And I planted probably 6 of them in water, and to see which ones took root, and only 1 out of about every 6 would take root. I don't know if they sprayed some kind of hormone to stop that, I'm not sure, but it took a lot of them to get them to take root. And we're going to try to continue on every year with our own sweet potatoes. This is just a little more corn, same concept. You know, it needs full sun. It'll get morning sun to about 1, and then hopefully when it gets tall enough to get above this side of the greenhouse, it'll start getting sun through the greenhouse in the afternoon. We'll see how that works there. Here we just had a few jalapeno plants. We didn't really have anywhere to put them, so we put them here. Here we're growing some chocolate vine. It smells like chocolate in bloom, so it puts off fruit, and the idea is get it to take up here and cover some of the ugliness there. And not only that, if it takes off, it's a fruit-bearing vine, and a fruit-bearing vine could come in handy covering our fence lines. This is one of our aquaponics beds. It's not completely filled yet. Just got it set up. I got more media ordered. I don't want to do the whole thing with that granite stone because it's really hard on the hands, so I've ordered some clay pellets. More of the chocolate vine here. It takes multiple plants for it to fruit because it can't pollinate itself, so it has to be cross-pollinated. And I have 3 of them out here and 1 in the greenhouse. And then here I've got some bamboo. That's Japanese timber bamboo. It gets about 40 feet tall. It gets really nice and around, good for timber, but the main thing we're going to use it for is shading. We want to use this to shade the one backside corner of the greenhouse to shade and protect the fish, and also go around the pool for looks and aesthetic purposes. And come over here, and this is the one that we've already transplanted right here. So this is a bamboo here. We're going to cut this corner with bamboo, and it'll help protect just kind of protect the fish from shade. Thank everybody for watching. We're going to wrap this up. We just tried to do a little quick tour. Our chores got rained out. It keeps raining a little bit. It'll stop. So I think we're going to head inside and try to get into something in there. But we're going to do next video. We're going to try to do something on the rabbits. We got a little rabbitry set up. So we'll try to work on that a little bit, and then we'll show you a video on that. But other than that, if you like what you see, please hit thumbs up, and thanks for watching.